Newsy news. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, you beautiful YouTube Tarkovians. My name is Onepeg, and this is another Escape from Tarkov news video. This time, we're going to talk about some teased tweets with stuff that's actually in-game now that people I don't think had realized it was, and a possible target date for Streets. No, for real. For real. Now, some of this is going to be rumor mill, courtesy of the man Nikita himself, and some of this is going to be copious amounts of hopium. So brace yourselves. But on to the tweets. First up, Nikita says, broken English bear voice at about noon yesterday. So what does this mean? This means that he's talking about having voice-acted broken English, heavily accented in Russian, bear voice lines that can be heard as English lines rather than Russian. Some of these, though, are already in the game. Okay, so I got to pay the bills, and Onepeg with a fresher haircut is going to talk to you about Surfshark VPN. So if you would please check out the sponsored segment, I would very much appreciate it, and we will get into the rest of the video. Thanks. Do you guys remember the last time your identity was stolen? Because I do. I had a credit card taken out in my name using my personal information, my social security number, you name it. And they ran up thousands of dollars in debt buying cell phones, of all things. It took me a month to work with the bank in figuring out how all of those charges could have happened when they were made more than 3,000 miles away from my house. Almost always, those pieces of information are derived from internet queries. Somewhere deep dark on the web, someone has pieces of information about you. And what they do with that information is sometimes malicious. Things like a software-based VPN can go a long way to safeguarding you against those types of attacks. And if you're going to use a VPN, you want to make sure it's something that is reliable, is fast, is inexpensive if you can help it, has a good UI that's easy to use, and obviously has really good customer service. Those 5 things are pretty important. And the best part about this is we already have all of those things in one simple software program, and that is Surfshark. Utilizing something called IP masking, you can quite simply choose the country that you would like to connect to, click on it, and there, bang. Your IP address has now changed to somewhere in Sweden. By allowing multiple hops between this server and your home PC, it helps to mask the IP address of your personal location, thereby safeguarding you that much more. And Surfshark also has built-in tools to help protect you against things like tracking cookies and malware that can be embedded in web pages. Simply by going to the Clean Web option underneath your options settings and turning on this little radio button, it will then block all of the ads, tracking cookies, and malware that come across your desktop from taking advantage of you. Now, obviously, utilizing something like this comes with a cost, but lucky for us, the cost is extremely minimal in the case of Surfshark. If you click on the link in the description below and use code ONEPEG on checkout, you will get 83% off plus an additional 3 months absolutely free. That works out to somewhere around $2 a month. And if that isn't good enough, they offer a 30-day money-back guarantee, no questions asked. If you're unsatisfied, they will give you the money back. But if that isn't good enough, the license is unlimited. You can use it on all of your devices at home. Your kids, your spouse, your significant other, your partner, your family, your friends, whoever you'd believe should have Surfshark, you can let them use it. It costs nothing additional. I use Surfshark every single day. It gives me a little bit more peace of mind knowing that my information is that much more protected. So what have you got to lose? Give it a shot. Let me know what you think in the comments. And I just want to say a special thank you to Surfshark for being my longest running sponsor ever. I really, really appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much. Specifically the voice lines Roger and Stop. Now this clip comes courtesy of the Twitter user iPlayPC, who's a follower of mine and DM'd me this footage from inside of a raid as of yesterday. So these should be live in-game as of right now.
Stop! Есть. Выполняю. Хорошо.
Okay, so what you heard first was the Stop voice line where he says, stop.
Stop.
Pretty clear. The second is under the Roger voice line. The first time was yes.
Есть.
And then the second one, there was a Russian one in between, but the third option, I guess it pulls from a random pool, the third option was
Хорошо.
Which is, I guess, a very Russian way of saying Roger. Pretty cool. Maybe that's the patch that we got the other day. I don't play Bear. Has this been in for a while? Because this seems new to me. Is this new? Maybe this was in before and I'm just being debated. Comments? You guys know? And then the Streets teaser. This coming from the man himself, Nikita, once again. The most asked question: when is the Streets coming out? It's being done. We hope to see first iteration before autumn. Right now, the performance is crucial point. Let's just go down memory lane a little bit before we get all hyped up about the potentiality of this coming before autumn. Could it happen before autumn? Yeah, absolutely it could. Sure. I mean, Nikita could end up punching out a first iteration of Streets by the end of August or mid-September. But if you remember, this was something that was also said they wanted to do last year. Not necessarily in the case of Streets, but they wanted to get out an expansion to the game by the end of summer. If you remember, that's when they first targeted to try and have Lighthouse out by the end of summer. That didn't happen. We didn't see Lighthouse until December 12th, some almost 6 months later. The other thing that we have to keep in mind here, and I want to say this in a way, I'm not trying to slag BSG in any way. I think they are a fantastic dev company. I love that the indie studio is making the game that they want to make, and I think Nikita, for all intents and purposes, is a damn genius. The guy musically scores the entire game himself. He's the artistic director and the mechanics director for basically the entire game, and Tarkov is his brainchild. The guy is really damn smart. However, BSG has never hit a single target date they have ever set, or a target date range for that matter, a region of the year, if you will, a time frame of a span of 3 months, let's say. They have never hit one of those targets, ever. Streets of Tarkov was originally teased back in 2017. They did a Gamescom conference in 2016 where they talked about the potentiality of Streets being live in Q1 2017. So the likelihood that we will see Streets of Tarkov by the end of the summertime or somewhere in autumn is pretty slim. Also consider the fact that if we were to push ourselves toward a Streets of Tarkov release by autumn, that would also mean that we're going to be pushing this wipe cycle through the entire summertime. It would not likely be a scenario where they would wipe the game at any point between now and, say, the end of June, if only then to wipe it again a couple of months later. Doesn't seem to make a lot of logical sense. To me, I'm still sticking with the original timeline, which would be a Lighthouse expansion coinciding with a wipe at some point in mid-June, and then we would see Streets by the end of the calendar year. It's not likely, at least in my mind, that they would end up realistically seeing something like this by the end of summertime for Streets. Now, all of that being said, I would love nothing more than to be wrong. If I was wrong, that means that we get 2 major content expansions plus a whole lot of other things being added to Tarkov for us to be able to play and enjoy. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. I will gladly be horribly wrong in this case because that's just more stuff to explore, more content to create, more things to do, and who doesn't love more stuff, right? It's just that nowhere in the track record of BSG over the last 5 or 6 years have they ever hit a target date, ever. Even something short-term when it came to the release of NVIDIA DLSS in Tarkov. They did a podcast and Nikita said it would be a week to a week and a half. It ended up being 2.5 weeks. So even in the short term, the foresight seems to be just a little bit lacking. Things sometimes take longer than intended, and in BSG's case, maybe that's all the time. They have a relatively small dev team compared to other studios, and they're doing an awful lot of stuff that no other shooting games have tried to do before. With that, of course, is going to come a lot of growing pains and an awful lot of bugs. Sometimes those bugs end up being things that take an awful long time to fix, and we don't want to push out broken stuff out to the community because then we just get more hateful tweets and comments about how the game is broken and unplayable and the game is dying and So I, for one, am personally all about pumping the brakes, and we can wait a little bit longer and make sure it's done right. I would love, again, to see a release by autumn. I just don't think that it's likely. Anyway, guys, that's what I have for this video. Thank you all so very much for coming and checking this out. Please, if you would, consider subbing the channel if you're not already a sub. Please follow me on my socials at OnepegMG on Twitter, and maybe stop by a stream sometime at twitch.tv/OnePeg, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.